Hello and welcome to this introduction to CLI or command line interface and some basic file management. Now Linux borrows heavily from Unix, and Unix it began as a text-based operating system. So what it means is that for you to understand and operate Linux as a Linux administrator, you must understand at least some basics of its command line tools. And also some shells. Shells are the programs that accept and interpret text mode commands. Now let's start off with shells, which I just mentioned that these are the programs which accept and intercept text mode commands. Now, like many other key software components, Linux provides a range of options for shells, and the most common one that we use is Bash, which stands for Born Again Shell. It's B-O-U-R-N-E, Born Again Shell. It is based on Bourne Shell, which is BSH. So that is another shell now that you know. Now this Bourne is based on Bourne shell, but it extends its functionality in many ways. And as I just mentioned that nowadays almost all the Linux distribution, they come by default with this Bourne shell or Born Again shell. Then we have another shell which is C shell. It is not much used nowadays. Then we have TC shell, which is, so this is TCSH, which is based on C shell, and it is also fairly popular in some circles, but no major Linux distribution it comes up with TC shell by default. Then we have K shell, which takes takes into account both Bourne shell and C shell and takes the goods or the best out of these two, and they have been combined into K shell. Now K shell is also has got some dedicated following among Linux users, but it is not used much. Then we have Z shell or ZSH, which is an evolution of K shell and incorporating features from some earlier shells as well. So now the question comes into mind that how do you start a shell? Well, the chances are that when you log into a system and you open up the either you are in GUI mode or in text mode, then the screen that is presented to you, if you are in text mode, the chances are that you are already in a shell where you can execute the commands. And even if you are in GUI mode and you open up a terminal or X terminal, then as soon as you open that terminal, you are put into a shell mode. That shell depends that what shell has been associated to your user. It could be Bash or K shell or C shell or any of the shells that I have just mentioned. Now once you are in the shell, the very first basic command that I would like to tell you is pwd. It's all small letters, which stands for present working directory, so that you know that in which directory you are working. The other important command, and it is used very frequently, is ls, which is short for listing, or it also means that show me the contents of the directory that I am in at the moment. To move from one directory to another, we'll be using the command cd. It stands for change directory, and we will also be seeing that how we can kind of combine two or more commands in one line. So let me just fire up my CentOS operating system and let's see how we can execute these commands onto it. Alright, so I have booted up the machine and this is the GUI interface that we get. So I click on my name and I put in the password and we get logged into the CentOS operating system. Once I am presented with the graphical interface or the desktop, I can click on applications, and from here I can select on this terminal to put me into a respective shell. So I am here, and the first command that I told you about is pwd or present working directory, so that we know that where we are working. So I'm at the moment in home and Ahmed. Now to see the contents of this directory, I can type in ls, which is short for listing. I can see the contents of this directory, and these blue ones are the directories and the greens ones, and this one, this is the zipped or compressed file. It's Skype version 4.3. And also there is a command which if you use the switch -L to show us the long listing. Now this output shows us that this 1.exe and this Skype file, which is compressed file, or this test file, these are the files. And how do you know that? Look at that. Look at these parameters over here. This D, if the output of this command it is starting with D, it means that it's a directory. This dash, it signifies that it's a file. Also this one is the owner of the file or the directory, and this one is the group. This is the size in bytes and when was this file created. I can also type in, let's say, ls/home, or show me the contents of this home directory. So I see that there are 3 folders. One is by the name of myself and 2 are by the name of Tom, with of course one is starting with capital T and the other one with small t. I can also type in ls root to show me the contents of the root directory. Now let's try to change to a directory by using the command cd. So at the moment you see I am at home Ahmed. Now let's try to change to var directory by typing in var, and then if I press double tab over here, it will show me the possible contents of the directory that I can go into. So if I press double tab, these are all the possible directories that I can go into. So let's say I want to go into maybe Kerberos. So I type in KER, and after that I can either type in complete word Kerberos, or if I type in tab after a significant number of letters so that there is no other possible combination. You see KE is a unique combination, or even K is the unique letter in this directory. There is no other directory starting with K. So even if I press tab after K, it will automatically get completed. But if I try to, let's try L. If I type in L and press double tab, it shows me that there are 4 possible combinations. Likewise, if I press O, there are again 3 possible combinations. But if I press G, then log is a unique directory. And if I press tab, we see that it has put a front slash over it. And now if I can press enter to go into that particular directory. Now once we are here, I can type in pwd to see where I stand now. Now to see the contents of this directory, I can again type in ls, or another way to do that is let's just go back to our home directory. So cd and this sign which is above this is called as tilde, and I press enter, and now I come back to my home directory again, which is home Ahmed. Now let's see the contents of this directory var log. Instead of going into that directory, I can simply type in ls/var log, and it will show me the same output. For long output, to see what are the sizes and when were these files created or accessed, I can type in ls-l command. Now to repeat a command or to see what commands I have typed in or see the history, so that you do not, if you type in long command and you are not really into typing it again, you can either press up arrow. I'm pressing up arrow at the moment, and we are seeing that all the commands that I've typed in are being shown. Or if I get past a command and I want to come back, I can press the down arrow and come back to that very particular command. There is another command which is history, and it shows us the history of all the commands that a user has executed on for that particular time period. It saves them, like these are the commands that I've just typed in, including the history command. Now to clear the history, if you want to clear the contents of this file, the command is history -c once it gets executed. And now if I type in history, we see that there is no entry in there. Now beside this history command, there is another file that maintains the commands that a user has executed, and that command, that file I should say, it resides in the user directory. So at the moment I'm in my own directory, which is home Ahmed, and that file is bash. Now vi is the editor, and we'll talk a lot about in later lectures that how we can use vi. So just remember at the moment that it is an editor, and I'm going to edit or open a file which is .bash underscore history or .bash history. So once I execute it, we see that I have a list of complete all the commands that I have executed on this system. So just wanted to show you, you do not need to worry about the VI editor at the moment. If you know it, it's good, but if you don't know it or you are not comfortable with VI editor, we'll have a detailed look at it and how we can use it. I can clear this terminal, you say, by typing in the command clear to get a clear slate. And also let's try to combine commands. So let me show you what I've got in my directory. So if I type in, let's say, cd aaa or change directory to aaa in my own home directory, which I'm here at the moment, it should give me an error because there is no AA directory, as we can see. And if I type in cd aaa, then semicolon, and after that I type in ls, then what this command does is that this semicolon actually makes it two commands. Once after the command this semicolon comes in, it means that the shell will consider it that a command has completed over here. It will first execute this command, whatever is the output of this, and afterwards it will execute the next command, which is ls in this case. So the result of the first command, cdaa, we can see that since it's a non-existent directory, we can see that it is giving us an error that no such file or directory, and afterwards it has executed the ls command, which is over here. Now on the other hand, let me show you one more thing, that if I type in, let's say, cdaa, then double ampersand sign and then ls, then we see that there is no output against ls, and it's because this double and or double ampersand sign, what this does is that only execute this kind of logical AND operator, this one. So what it means is that only execute this command, the next command, only if the first one is successful or the results are successful and not an error. In this case, this is an error. This is not a successful command, although command was executed, but the result was not a success. It was an error. On the other hand, if I type in, let's say, Let's type in maybe desktop. So cd desktop, the result will be successful because it is a valid directory, and then execute ls. So let's do that. Let's press enter, and it has executed ls command, but since there is no content in there, so the directory is empty, so it has not showed us anything. But let's try to do the same thing using Skype folder. I believe there would be many files in there. So if I type in Skype and double and sign and then ls, we see that first it has changed to Skype directory, and then afterwards, since the result was successful, it has executed the ls command as well to show us the contents of this Skype directory. Okay, so now let's see how we can perform basic file management operations. The first and foremost, let me just bring up the slide. So the first command that I would like to tell you about is how you can create a file by using the command touch. It's like a magical touch. You just issue the command and then you give the file name and the command is created. And then you can start editing and change the contents of it. Then other command is copy, which you can use to copy, let's say, a file 1 onto a file 2, or if file 2 is non-existent, you can just name file 1 to file 2 and it will be copied as a file 2. We can also use this command in this way. For example, we have a directory path. So this directory path, and this is file 1 over here. Then after a space, we can define an other directory path and give it another file name so that this file is copied to a different location. We can also use the command move, which is short for move. In move, if we have got file 1 and we move it onto file 2 by giving the command move f1 space f2, we'll see about these commands. Then file 1 is kind of renamed into file 2, and this one is not there anymore. Likewise, the same syntax goes for different directories. We have directory path, and if we have got file 1 over here, we can simply move it to another directory path with a different name or even with the same name. There is another command which is remove, to remove the file or the directories. For particularly if we are talking about directory, there is a command which is remove directory, but I have really seen people using it most of the time. All of the administrators, including myself, we use rm command and we use different switches to remove directory, not only files but also directories. Another problem with this rm directory remove directory command is that if you are trying to remove a directory and it is not empty, then this command will give you an error that you first need to make the directory empty and only then you can delete it. To create the directory, we can use the command mkdir, which obviously we can guess that it stands for make directory, and then the directory name that whatever we want to create. For cp, if we have got, let's say, if you have got a folder or a path, let's say this is the directory path and this is the directory, let's call it Linux. So in that Linux directory, not only that there are multiple files, but there are multiple folders as well. So if you are trying to copy this Linux directory from one location to another location, then it will copy the files, but if it has got folders in it, it will not copy them, and it might give us an error that it has contained folders in it. Now, to cater for this problem, in fact it's not a problem, to cater for this function, what we can use is that we can use a switch which is -r, and this -r states that start copying the contents recursively, or in other words, copy the directories, and even if in these directories there are other directories or files, copy all the things in this Linux folder recursively. Look at the contents. If it has got something else in it, copy that as well. If it got something else in that folder as well, copy it. So remember this switch recursively. This same switch with small r is used in remove command as well. To remove directory contents recursively, we use small r. So now let's head over to the terminal and see how we can use these commands.